Good afternoon, class. I may be giving this lecture in the afternoon of Friday, but as to your end, it will be posted, uh, or you will find it in your module during Monday. So we just finished the discussion regarding the upper limb. We're not able to finish it because of short of time. So now we're going to discuss the hands. At the same time, the internet during that time is quite unstable. So let's continue our discussion regarding the hands. So we're going to discuss this one. So this is the hands that we try to talk about. So try to okay, just wait a minute. Okay, so this is the hands. Okay, so we have here the wrist. So first let's discuss the part of the wrist before we are going to proceed with the muscles. So the wrist, it is composed of the carpal bones. Okay, carpal bones, these are the bones that composes your wrist bones. So there are 8 of them, 8 carpal bones here. There are 8 carpal bones we can find. So if in anatomical position, when you try to name them, you name them from the lateral or from here, no, from here going to the medial. Okay, okay. So from the base of the thumb, always take note, is you name the bones of the wrist from the base of the thumb. So starting from this, which is, that is the scaphoid, then you have your lunate, then you have your triquetral, then you have your pisiform. So there are 4 proximal rows, or there are 4 bones in the proximal rows and another 4 bones on the distal rows. So these scaphoid, lunate, triquetral, and pisiform, these are the bones of the wrist that belongs to the proximal row of the carpal bones. Then we have here the trapezium, the trapezoid, then you have your hamate, capitate, then your hamate. Okay, so these are the distal row. So this is the 4 bones found in the distal row of the carpal bones. So you have your trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. Okay, so again, let's start. Then let's name them one by one. This is the scaphoid, your lunate, your triquetral, pisiform, that is for the proximal row, and for the distal row you have your trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. Now the most prominent part here is this one. This is what we call the hook of the hamate, no? Kani siya? This one, this is the hook of the hamate. Now then we have here the metacarpals. This one, this is the first metacarpal, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So the numbering of the metacarpals of the bone starts from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we have first metacarpal, the second, third, fourth, and fifth. So if you're going to close your hands forming a fist, this one, this is the distal end of your metacarpals. It forms the knuckles of your hand. Okay, so this is the distal end. The proximal end articulates with the distal carpal bones. Okay, distal row of the carpal bones. Okay, so what are those distal row? Again, the trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and the hamate. The proximal row, you have your scaphoid, lunate, uh, trachytral, and pisiform. Okay, so if you're going to name, it's easy for to remember. You have your scared for the scaphoid, lovers for the lunate, tried for the trachytral, position that is for pisiform. So you have scared, lovers, tried, position. So then you have your that they cannot handle. So you have your trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. Okay, so it's easy for to memorize. Okay, then you have your this one. This is your PIP, or your proximal interphalangeal bone. Okay, here this is the proximal interphalangeal, this one, and this one, and this one. So you have that the proximal interphalangeal. Now then this is the DIP for the thumb. No, this one, this portion, this is the DIP. From this to that, that is the DIP, the distal interphalangeal bone. Now the DIP is found at the tip. No, here we have here the DIP. See, this is the DIP of your second, third, and fourth. And you notice there's a bone in between the PIP and the DIP. Okay, so there's the bone. What do you call that bone? That is your you call that as your intermediate, or your interphalangeal. Okay, that is your intermediate phalangeal bone. So that is in between your proximal and your distal interphalangeal bone. Okay, now the four fingers, the four digits, have this intermediate bone, but the thumb has no intermediate bone. From PIP, then DIP. But here you have your PIP, intermediate, and the DIP. Okay, so inana. Now let's put on the nerve. Let's put on the nerve. Okay, so if you notice, this is your ulnar nerve, which passes here. If you notice here, it forms here a tunnel, which we call the tunnel of Guyon, where usually it is trapped, no, distally, which causes weakness of the intrinsic muscles of the hand. When you say intrinsic muscles, that refers to the muscles of the hand that originates from the hand bone and insert also in the hand. So that's why they called intrinsic, means they are the muscles that found in the hands. Okay, when you say extrinsic, those are the muscles that originates outside the hands and insert in the hands. Okay, so inana, so there are two groups that is involved in the hands, which is the intrinsic and the extrinsic group of muscles. The intrinsic is the muscles that found only in the hands, while the extrinsic, the origin comes from outside the hands. Okay, so let's take for example your extensor group of muscles that used to extend the wrist and fingers, the flexor group of muscles, they are considered as extrinsic muscles of the hand. Okay, they are involved in hand function, but their origin is found outside the hands. Okay, then you have your intrinsic. Okay, now let's go back to the nerve. Now this is the ulnar, this is the median nerve, and this is the radial nerve. So now usually the median nerve, it passes in this portion here in the middle. No? Now usually in some conditions, especially in pregnant women, the median nerve is trapped in this portion. Okay, so if you are going to put back the connective tissue, let me try. That's a muscle. Oh, okay. And let's remove the skin. Oh, mm. Okay. So we are going to put the nerve back. Okay, here. See, the nerve passes beneath this extensor and you have your flexor retinaculum. Now, the problem is in pregnant women, usually the joints of the body becomes lax because of the presence of hormone which we call oxytocin. Now, these hormones makes your ligaments a little bit flexible or elastic, more elastic. So what happens? There are tendencies that the bones will what? It will compress the nerve because it is not stable. The joint becomes unstable, no? So what happened? The nerve will be compressed here in the wrist area because of the uh, instability of the joints in the carpal bones. So when the nerve is compressed, it will affect the fingers here, the sensation of these fingers, starting from the thumb, no, because it is supplied by this branch of the median nerve. Okay, here in the middle, and half of this uh, ring finger. So you will have sensory disturbance in this finger. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Only this portion, the anterior part, but the posterior wala kay radial nerve man diri. So diri na siya ay abnormal sensation. It can be a tingling sensation or a numbness or a pins and needles, no, nga sensation. After that, when no, so when the nerve is compressed in this area, then that will be affected, no, usually in the at the night, no, or yeah, in the night or early in the morning when the one suffering from carpal tunnel walks up, feel the numbness, especially if the position of the hand is something like that, naka naka siya, naka flex, no, so inana. So we call that as the carpal tunnel syndrome. It is very common among pregnant women. Of course, there are other conditions also that might result into that, no? But common siya sa pregnant women. Again, because of the hormonal changes that happens in women, especially during the second and third trimester of their pregnancy. Okay. Now, then you have the radial nerve at the back. Now, let's put the muscles, no? Let's put the muscles. Okay. Now, here, if you notice, that is an extrinsic muscle of the hands, which is the palmaris longus, which flexes the wrist, diba? Okay, naka-insert na isa sa flexor retinaculum. Okay, now, here, so if you notice, ako na siyang pangtanggalon ha, kani, I'm going to hide that one, hide, and this one, hide. Okay, so here, these are the muscles of the hand, especially the intrinsic muscles. When you say intrinsic, they are found only in the hand. They origin from the hand and insert in the hand. Okay, so I'm going to remove this long finger flexor. Okay, as well this profundo, superficialis, and the profundus. This, pananggalon ako ng extrinsic, no? Okay, kana mga tendon. So we have here intrinsic muscles of the hand. Let's start from the thumb. Okay, from the thumb, this one. Here we have the intrinsic muscle of the thumb. We have the abductor pollicis. Okay, so abductor pollicis Again, from the word abductor, its primary function is to abduct the thumb, no? So ana siya. No? Kay ana man na siya class, no? Ang flexion ana niya, ana flex and extend. This is the abduct, adduct, and abduct. Okay? So that is the abduction of the thumb, no? Okay. Now, of course, that is innervated by the branch of the median nerve. Okay. Now, if we're going to remove, hide, we have here also the opponent's palliages for that, no, movement. Opponents from opponences. Okay, so inana, that again, that is the function niya, no, to perform opposition. Okay, so let's hide that one. Again, we have here the flexor pollicis brevis. Okay, so again, that's another intrinsic muscle of the thumb. Okay, so it origins from the superficial head of flexor tenaculum and insert on the radial side of the base of the proximal phalanx. So you notice naaragod siya sa hand, no? Exclusive ragod siya nga naa sa hand, wala na siya nag-adto sa laing lugar. Again, it is innervated by the median nerve. Okay, so we hide it. So that is for the thumb in the anterior or in the palm. Then let's go to the little. So we have here the palmaris brevis. Okay, that is also nag-insert na siya sa flexor tenaculum, then nag-origin, then nag-insert na siya dra sa naara po na siya sa skin, no? Sa ato ang hands. It is a superficial muscle. So ang iyang action ana is to folds the skin of the ulnar side of the palm. So maura na siya, no? Na siya sa skin. So here we have also the abductor digiti minimi, no? So it's responsible for abduction of the little finger. Okay, nag-origin na siya sa pisiform, insert sa medial ulnar. Ang action is abduction of digit 5. Okay, towards the thumb. Okay, then we have the flexor digiti minimi brevis. Okay, so na siya gikan sa hook of the hamate, nag-insert na po na siya dira sa little finger. Okay, then you have your opponent's digiti minimi. Okay, so for that is for opposition. Okay, so innervated na siya sa ulnar nerve. So daghan, no, tulo ka buok diri, tulo pud sa thumb, no, sa anterior. Okay, now what are the other muscles? So we have here this one, no, kani nga mga muscles, netawag na sila nga lumbricals. This and this and this. Okay, okay, these are your lumbricals. Okay, ang lumbricals nato, ang action niya is flexes the metacarpophalangeal joint. Sabot pa sabot, flex the metacarpophalangeal. So ana siya, no? Okay, MCP man, no? So kung mao ni, dira siya gikan, taman dira, so gaana siya. That is lumbricals, no? So it's similar to flexing the wrist, no? Inani ra gyud na siya, tanaw na to ang iyang action. Ana so ana siya, no? Ana. Okay, so inana. So we have here the lumbricals. Okay, so aside from that, what's pa other actions niya sa lumbricals? uh, extend proximal and distal interpharyngeal joints. So maka-flex nga nakaana siya. So maka-extend na siya. So while nakaana ka, pwede siya ma-extend niya, di na po siya mag-ana. So that's the function of your lumbricals. Okay, so let's hide that muscles. Okay, na. So we have here another muscles. We have the adductor pollicis. So adductor pollicis, ang sa motion anang adductor pollicis. Tanaw na to ha. Okay, so this is the adductor pollicis. So inana, that is adduction. So ang abduction ana, ang flexion ana, ang extension ana. So adduct, abduct. Okay, so inana siya. Kada siya nga muscle. Okay, so that is the action of the abductor pollicis. So again, that is an intrinsic. So notice ninyo ang yang origin na naara dira sa third metacarpal. Okay, ay yang insertion naara siya diri. No? Kani mo na yang insertion. Okay, so let's hide that one. So there are no other muscles na dira sa anterior nga part sa hands. Ang nabilin is in the posterior. So anyway, this class base makuan mo wa ta na ma-mention that is the pronator quadratus. That is it works together with the pronator teres, no, dito sa proximal sa elbow, no, in pronating the hands, in pronating the forearm rather. So anto na to sa dorsum. Okay, so this is the muscle of the dorsum of the hand. Okay, so kuha ta ng long finger extensor. Kana sila, kuha ta na siyang part sa sigara na dra, snap box, anatomic snap box. Okay, kuha ta ni, these are tendons. So here in the dorsal part we can find the dorsal enterossei. So this is the dorsal enterossei. Okay, so may function anang enterossei. Okay, ano yung question? Enterossei leads to abduction of the metacarpophalangeal. So mag-ana, ano man na siya, no? Ana. So that is the function of the dorsal enterossei, no? So it's for the abduction of the, kung di mo na siya tanawon, na po kay palmar, no? Diri sa tubang. Siya'y palmar enterossei. Ang function sa palmar enterossei is for adduction of the digit. So ana. So ang dorsal is for abduct, ang palmar is for adduct. Okay? So ana sa itong bantayan, ha? Okay? So nana siya. So unsa may ga-innervate ani atong mga enterossei? So tanaw na to, ang innervation ana is ulnar nerve, no? Even your dorsal enterossei, ang ga-innervate ana niya is ulnar nerve. So unsa may significance ana? So if you have injury on the ulnar nerve, it's either here on the tunnel of Guyon or the arcade of Frost here in the on the elbow. What will happen, no? You will have, no, kaya imo na siya makuan ang imong ulnar nerve, imo na siyang ana manay garajating pain, pain diri, naigo na siya ang imong ulnar nerve. So what will happen kung maigo na siya dra? So you have paralysis of the muscles so that is supplied by the ulnar nerve. So basically muscles that here, no, control ani. So what will happen? So sometimes that will manifest into intrinsic plus and intrinsic minus. Ano man ang intrinsic plus? Kung mag-flex ka sa imuhang wrist sa may matabo, kay wala man ang imuhang katong naga-supply sa intrinsic muscles, no? tamramay na bilin na ay median pero the rest ana ulnar man. So sa intrinsic muscle, so wala absent ang intrinsic unsa man siya, mag-ana lang ang kamot nimo. That is a sign of intrinsic minus. But pasabot na problema sa ulnar nerve. Kung ipa-flex nimo siya, okay, make a fist. Pag ingon nimo make a fist, ana ra siya taman, di na siya kaana. Kaya nga naman, wala may mo pull aning ihang PIP nga para mag-flex. Asa raman ang mag-full? Ang long finger flexor, ang extrinsic muscle. So, igo ra siya mag-ana. Intact matong superficialis o digitorum profundus. So, ana ra siya taman. So, this is an intrinsic minus. Kung intrinsic plus, ana ra. Makaana siya. Sabot intact ang ulnar nerve, walay problema. So, makamik sa fist. Pero kung mag-ana siya, ana na po siya magkumo, ya wala siya ana, di siya kahimog ana. Intrinsic plus to siya, pero wala na po ang extrinsic niya. So, absent ang iyahang displayan sa median nerve. So, inana. Wala na atong bantayanan. Okay? So, unsa naman po ang manifestation pananglitan? So, sa ulnar, kabalo na ta ato, no? Nga ang kamot niya, kung walay ulnar nerve, motor part mag-ana, no? Sensory, unsa man? Sa sensory, wala na siya diri sensation kani o katunga ani. So pananglitan ang problema sa sensation is kani o katunga ani. Unsa nga nerve ang affected? That is the median nerve, no? So median nerve na siya kay kani siya diri, kani nga area diri, tama dira, that is supplied by the median nerve. Okay? Sa sensation. Okay. Now, so much for that. Atong i-hide. So unsa pay atong nalimtan ani sa hands? Ang gawas nga ana. Okay, so here ang very prominent nato din diri nga part sa atong wrist ug sa hands is saman mga prominence, no? Bony prominence nga atong mapalpate. Okay, so inani siya. So itong tigamnan ha. Okay, so here na diri kaning gaburot diri sa kilid kani, this is your styloid process of the ulna. Naapabot siya diri styloid process of the radius, pero di diri, no? Dili ra pud siya kaayo dako gyud, no? Mapalpate ra gyapon. Ang purpose na niya is to prevent your carpal bones or your wrist bones to slide out, no? Diri sa imong radiocarpal joints, no? So inana siya. So here na pag siya ligaments nga nagahold ra, no? Kani if you notice, kani nga ligaments, that is your ulnar, that is your ulnar collateral ligaments, no? Kana siya dira, kani no, na ulnar collateral ligaments dira nga naga-support og naapoy radial collateral ligaments. Okay, so ana, no, gatabang ana siyang imuhang styloid process para mahimo siyang if you're radially deviating your hands or ulnar deviating, dili magpaingon diri ang imuhang carpal bones, no? Mag-ana ka, di po siya magpaingon diri, di magawas. So naa siya ligaments nga naga-hold diri sa kilid. Okay? So, inana siya. So far, that is for the hands. Okay. Now, let's go now to the common injuries nga mahitabo, no? So, here, ang radial nerve, so we have here the radial nerve. na mamali sa imo ano, that's not di kani, no? So if we're going to remove that one, remove the brachioradius, this is the radial nerve, no, biro. So here, if you have an injury of the radial nerve above elbow, somewhere here on your lateral epicondylar ridge, that would result to paralysis of the muscle of the extensor group. So kanang mag-ana sa imong fingers or wrist, no, ma-paralyze na. So kay dili naman kakainana, weak man siya, so birahon siya sa flexor group. So mainana. We call that as wrist drop, no? Or kung ibutani siya sa likod, yung tawag siya Witter stip. No, Witter stip kana bitaw, Witter ka nya nga kag tip gikan sa imong customer. So mo na siya itawag ana, Witter stip deformity. So usually mo na siya injury niya nga may kwadra. Plus also the sensory deficit, no, sensation diri sa dorsum sa hand and forearm. But if the injury of the radial nerve is here in the forearm, then mostly sensory deficit lang ang imuhang problema. When you say sensory, dili siya ka feel, no, ang sa dorsum sa hand. Kung ang injury is naa diri dapit sa forearm, okay? So the affected is more on sensory, but if it is above elbow, then that is motor na, combination sa motor and sensory deficit. Okay, so what else? Okay, here, no? Napagyan dyan siya, no? Pinaka-common po niya ma-injured. Dere. So, maura na, no? How about if you have injury of your axillary nerve here in the axillary area, no? Pananglitan na kay injury, no, nadunggabang ka dis kilikili, no? Usually it's only professional killer that does that, no? So unsa may mahitabo, then you will have problems sa imuhang deltoid kani, no? Kung na kay resection sa axillary nerve, na kay problema sa deltoid, so usually it will atrophy, no, mugamay ni siyang deltoid, and sometimes your shoulder will be prone to, your shoulder joint will be prone to dislocation. Okay, so let's go now to the joints. So the type of joint, so here sa shoulder na to, ang type of joints diri, no, is your ball and socket. Yanong ball and socket man? Because you have here the ball, which is the head of the humerus, and the socket, which is your glenoid fossa. So muna siyang gitawag nga ball and socket joint, or it is one type of the synovial joint. Okay, so this is the ball, this is the head of the humerus, and this is the glenoid fossa, which is the socket. Muna gitawag siya ball and socket joint. Ball and socket joint is a synovial type of joint. When you say synovial, na say synovium in the eye fluid. So basically, ang mga synovial type of joint, they allow movements, no? Or they are freely movable type of joints. Kung sa elementary pa natong classification sa joints, di ba, natay immovable, slightly movable, and freely movable type of joints sa atong science class. Okay, so kana siyang ball and socket, one type of freely movable type of joints na siya, ball and socket. Okay, so muna siya joint dira sa shoulder, that is a ball and socket joint, no, and under na siya sa freely movable type of joints. Okay, now let's go to the elbow. Dito sa elbow, sa may naa ng elbow. Dira sa elbow, kung mong tanawon, na siya duha ka joints dira actually. Actually, tulo pa gani di ay, no? Not only two. So, kuha na ko ning capsule, no? nga naga-envelope nila. Okay, this is a ligament. So kani ko ni then kani naitulod. Okay, so we have here the radio-ulnar joint, proximal radio-ulnar, no, between the radius and ulna. So kani siya. Okay, kani diri. So between the head of the radius and the ulnar nuts, radial nuts, radial nuts of the ulna. So they form now what they call proximal radio-ulnar joint. In here also, no, the articulation between the capitulum and the head of the radius. Okay, we call that as humeroradial joint, and the articulation between the trochlea and the ulna, we call that as humero-ulnar joint. So there are two joints there in the elbow actually, between the humerus and the radius, and humerus and ulna. So we call that humeroradial and humero-ulnar. But if we are going to fuse the two, then basically that's what we call elbow joint. So ana ra na siya. Okay, so elbow joint is naidua. Ang imuhang proximal radio-ulnar is a separate joint. Na sa separate nga capsule. Okay? Okay, so ana siya. So ang imong radius nag-articulate sa capitulum. Ang ulna nag-articulate sa trochlea, no? Then there is a likod at the back. Okay. Hide. We have the most prominent part here of the ulna here. Kani? This is the olecranon process. No, kana siya nagsulod na siya diri sa olecranon fossa. Okay? In here na siya po diri dayoy bursa. Kanang bursa is just like a foam that is usually found in the surface of bony prominences nato. So purpose ng bursa, it serves as cushion para kung ato siyang itukod ana dili siya sakit. Okay? So mao na siya, no? Ana siya murag foam dra. Okay? So inana. Okay, so unsa man ni nga type of joint ang naa sa elbow na to, kanang duha, kanang humeroradial and humero-ulnar. That is a hinge type of joint. A hinge type is another type of synovial joint. Now, the direction of motion of the hinge type is only one, no? One lang gina direction. It's either flexion or direction, flexion or extension. Ana na siya, flex, extend rin na siya. So, mo sige tawag hinge kay ngano man murag piltahan, di ba? Hinges sa door. Then you have here the proximal radio-ulnar joint, which is kung imong tan-awon magtuyok-tuyok man na, di ba? That is a pivot type of joint. That is another type of synovial type of joint. So ana siya, no? Rotation ra nang iya, rotation. Then here at the end there is a wrist. No? Kung imong tan-awon ana man siya, no? Di ba? Kung imong tan-awon kani isa ni siya, no? Kani siyang proximal carpal bones, isa na siya ka shape sa bones. Kani isa po na. So imong tan-awon na siya medyo na ipagka oblong siya. So actually that is a condyloid type of joint. That is another type of synovial joint. Okay, so it's a freely movable. But because of the shape nga medyo naa siya naisay similarity sa ball and socket kay naa siya convex ug na concave. So ang iyahang direction of movements is also just like the ball and socket, no? It can move on several direction, or we call that as triaxial. When you say triaxial means it can move in 3 axes. So mo gyapon ng wrist kay pwede siya mag-flex, extend, pwede siya mag-radial, ulnar, pwede siya mag-rotate. So triaxial siya. Okay? So inana. Then you have here also this joint between the interphalangeal, no? Kay trochoid man na siya dira, trochoid, no? Medyo rotate na iyang gamay, then flex extend, no? So mao gyapon na siya lag movement. Okay? Uh, so inana, no? So basically ang joints dira sa imong gikan diri sa imong shoulder paingon sa ubos, mostly they are synovial joints, no? Or freely movable type of joints. Okay? So mao ra na siya class. So any questions? If you don't have any questions, or if you have questions, you can write it in the comment section of the module, so that I can answer it during I can answer it by writing also there or replying to your comment, or I can answer it also during our virtual class. Okay, thank you for listening. See you during our virtual class.